So tonight on Fishing ND, you have Eric Sr. here. We are going to go through the damiki rig, how I tie it, how I fish it. But before we do that, I would like to give a big shout out to Catch and Cull Baits. They have been with us last year through our tournaments and continued support what we do. And hopefully this year with our tournaments that we're going to do this year, they'll be continuing to support us. So if you could, go to their website, check them out. They have excellent jigs, and we'll get right into it. So how I tie a damiki rig. Damiki rigs, basically a jig head. Here you'll see a moon eye jig, and then I also use a realistic darter style jig head. This one here happens to be shaped a lot like a fish's head, and then I also use the fluke style split tail baits, body baits, swim baits, or jerk baits. They have excellent action in their tail, excellent rubber, and really like using the Zoom baby flukes for this. So I start by going through the eye of the jig once, and then I always come back through it just because of how I tie it. So I make a loop on this end, and my tag end and my main line are out this side here, and then I'll bring all my lines together, pinch it down. And the reason I'm fishing it like this is because you'll see in a minute, it gives superior action to the jig. Your jig's allowed to float, or not float, but it's allowed to hang at a 90-degree angle. It's allowed to, when you move it up and down, move freely. And on your moon eye jigs, if you drop it really quick, it will actually sit on the bottom vertical. I don't have a wet tank to show you that, but done it in shallow water where I could see what it was doing, and it actually will sit there and twitch the tail, and it looks realistic. I'm also, generally I don't use red line for this. I use 6 to 8 pound test fluorocarbon or 6 to 8 pound test braided line, but just for video purposes so you can see it. Then I make a loop, and then I bring the bait through the loop once, and then I bring the bait back through it again, coming back all the way through. Then I will wet the bait, or wet the line. And while I'm wetting it, I try to slide it as close to the jig head as possible. With the smaller diameter line, I can actually get that almost right on top of that jig head. So my hoop is a lot smaller than that, but for purposes of the video, we'll leave it a little bit bigger, and then your jig is allowed to swim like that. And when you're jigging this, the damiki rig is a very finesse bait, almost vertical jigging. So I cast it out about 20 to 25 feet away from the boat, and I let it sink, and then I'll jig it back to me. If I see schools of fish, or if I see 1 or 2 fish that are decent size on a trolling motor fish finder, then I'll sit there and I'll just vertical jig it right in front of them, and then I hook the bait onto there, kind of like this here. Just send it straight down the center of the body, thread it down like you would just a normal jig, bring it up, bring it out, and then that sits on there. And with that jig head, that is very, very realistic. And then it's allowed to sit there and twitch. So that's a damiki rig, one of the styles that I fish it. The other style is with the moon eye jig, and I can tie that here for you in just a second. Let me just clip this off. And everything's pretty much the same on that, but I'll just show you on that one how that one looks. So go through, come back, hoop, make sure you got enough. Hoop again, go through once, go through twice, and we'll see if I can get this lower, more like the way that I fish it. There you go. A lot better knot tied that time. This is what my knots generally look like. They're nice and tight. And my hoops are usually a little bit smaller than that, but that jig sits almost true 90, and then even in the water with the soft plastic on it, it still stays at the true 90. It just has tremendous action. Smallmouth, largemouth, love it. So in here outside of water it sinks a little bit, doesn't want to sit there, but in the water it sits right up. And then when you jig it, and then with the moon eye jig, when you set it, when you drop it and jig it, it actually will land right on the head. So that's why I use the moon eye jigs quite a bit. If I'm looking for a little bit more action or a little bit more realism, then I'll go with more of the darter style, but I always make sure that they have the eye. They have to have an eye. Fish just seem to love it. The bigger the eye, the better. So that, in short, is the damiki rig and how I fish it. So thank you, and thank you to Catch and Cole for your continued support, and thank you to everybody else out there for watching our videos and supporting us that way. Thank you, and God bless. Have a good night.